So just to let you know, I've opened up my Zoom. And I don't think I have sound again. God, so I need my ear things. Oh, I fucking hate this shit. I haven't touched it. It's right here. You ready? Yeah, for whatever reason, my microphone works only on the computer, not on this thing.
If the overwhelming majority of the board feels that that it is worthwhile having context to a dissenting vote, I'm perfectly comfortable with that.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I'd leave it up to Mr. Sunan. If he doesn't want any context, that's fine. I certainly want to insist upon it.
Then we'll leave it at this.
Very good.
All right. So we have a first and second. Do you want to do the roll call, Sylvia?
I sure do. All right, let's start with Auburn. I didn't see anyone from Auburn. Can we just verify anyone from Auburn? Please speak. Okay, let's go with Bedford. Charlie Fairman,
Here. Aye.
thank you. Bill Jean,
Here and abstain.
Barbara Salvatore.
Here and approve.
And did I see Brian Lord come in at the end? I heard a mic, but I didn't hear any words. Brian Lord. Okay, let's move on. Candia, is Al Hall in the room? So Al, and you're on mute, Linda.
Sorry about
Okay.
that. Yes, Al is here.
Here and yes.
Oh, okay, and we did hear that loud and clear. Thank you. Dick Snow.
Present and I.
Thanks, Dick. From Chester, we have Andrew Haddock.
Present and abstain.
Thanks, Andrew. And we have Deb Munson.
Here and yes.
Thanks, Deb. From Deerfield, we have Bob Cody.
Present and abstain.
All right, great. Thank you. From Derry, we have Jeff Moulton
Here and approve.
and John O'Connor.
Here and yes.
From Francistown, Alfred Eisenberg.
Here and yes.
Thanks, Alfred. And Linda Kuhnhart.
Here and yes.
Thank you so much, Linda. And we also have Patrick Bayan.
Here and abstain.
Thanks, Patrick. From Goffstown, I have David Pierce.
I'm here. Yes, I approve.
Barbara Griffin, I didn't see Barbara, did I? No. Okay. From Hooksett, I actually didn't see anyone. Did anyone come in from Hooksett? Okay, Linda is saying no. Londonderry, we have Brian Battaglia.
Here and yes.
Deborah Levins.
Here and yes.
Arthur Rugg.
I am here and yes.
Okay, great. From Manchester, we have Peter Capano.
I'm here and yes.
Raymond Clement.
Here and yes.
Thanks, Ray. And Dan O'Neill.
Here and abstain.
Thank you. From New Boston, we have Mark Sunan.
Here and yes.
And from Ware, Tom Clow.
Here, yes.
And from Wyndham, we have Peter Griffin.
Here and yes.
Did I miss anyone from our communities? Wow, that's
Marty
okay.
Sarugas from Londonderry is here.
Oh, thanks. Okay, Martin Strugus. I don't.
He's muted.
Hi, Martin.
Marty.
Marty, you're muted at the moment. All right, I'll come back to Marty. Let's see, we have William Rose from DOT.
Here and I'll abstain.
Okay, thank you. I know we have other folks from DOT. If you'd like to announce yourself.
I'm Bill Oldenburg from DOT.
Thanks, Bill.
Wendy Johnson from DOT.
Thanks, Wendy. And let's see, from MTA, we have Mike Whitten.
I'm here and I vote yes.
Thanks, Mike. Good to hear your voice. And I think that is all our voting members.
Okay, I unmuted, so
Oh,
here and
yay.
yes.
Great, Marty. Better late than never, right?
Yeah,
And I just want to acknowledge we have Tim White and Dean Williams. We have a lot of staff. Did I see Lee Levine?
We do have a Jess Bignati. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yes, Jess Bignati. I'm from the Lakes Region Planning Commission. I'm the assistant planner.
Oh, good to have you, Jess.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay,
All right, we can start the show.
very good. So unless we have any old business, we'll move on to the Exit 4A project update with Bill Oldenburg.
Good morning and thank you. I do have a brief PowerPoint. It's more talking points for myself to stay on track than anything. Can I share my screen?
You can now. I just made you a co-host. And for the record, we have Suzanne Brunel coming in from Londonderry. So you go ahead, Bill.
All right. Can you now see my screen?
Yes.
It's the full PowerPoint slideshow. Awesome. Great. Thank you very much. I know later on the agenda, you're going to talk about a tip amendment that contains information about this project and another project, the 13065A project. And you're probably wondering what this is all about. So I'd like to explain. So a little bit of history. As you all know, the Exit 4A project was originally put out as a design build project, which is a little bit of a unique animal for the DOT and for the state of New Hampshire. We do it, we've done these type of projects before as a design build in the past. We do it infrequently, but we have done it in the past. Zoom forward to August of last year. We received bids on the project from the contracting teams, and the bids were too high. I'm sure everybody has heard that. That we just could not find or justify a cost increase to award the contract. So after much wrangling and meeting, the design build procurement was canceled, but the project is still moving forward. So I want to make sure everybody understands that. All we did was cancel the bidding type of the project. The project is not canceled. The project is moving forward, and this is a priority project for the department. So we have met over the last several months, developed a plan to keep this project moving forward. And what I'd like to do is sort of lay out what our plan is briefly, so you get an understanding of why we're moving money around in the tip. So what our current plan is after the bids came in, we did hold a debrief meetings with all the contracting teams. We discussed sort of their approach to the project, and we have a better understanding through those conversations what elements in the design and construction translated really into higher than anticipated costs. So we think, using that information, we can move forward and make adjustments to the plan to bring the costs in within what we have allotted. So the current plan is not to continue as a design build project, but continue as a design bid build project. This is the typical process that we use on 95% of our projects, where we hire a design firm or we complete the design to 100% design plans. We advertise the project for bids, and the contractors bid on the project, and the low bid contractor is awarded the contract in most cases, and the project is built. It has less risk for the contractor. There's less unknowns, and that relates to more predictable bidding, as opposed to a design build project where there's more risk on the contractor. The design isn't complete. They have less information known about the project and some of the design elements, some of the construction elements, and so that is reflected in a higher bid price. So moving forward with this, this procurement is more predictable, and we'll have more of the unknowns straightened out before we actually bid. So from a design procurement standpoint, we have issued RFPs, we've selected a design firm, and we are in the process of negotiating a fee with that firm. And our plan is to bring that contract to get G&C approval in May of this year. So basically 4 months from now, that is our plan. So with the design designer on board, we have, and they're going to be tasked with designing the entire project, including from the interchange all the way down the connector road, down Shenado Drive to 102. So the project limits really haven't changed, but we're going to ask them to prioritize probably some contract breakout contracts. So from a construction standpoint, we're not going to build this all at once. Probably build it in 3 contracts, and this is the plan right now. Obviously, once we bring the consultant on board who's going to design it, we will go through what we can comfortably design and construct by contract. So the idea is that these different construction contracts could change, the limits could change a little bit, but the idea is that we will, we'll have everything designed and under construction, meeting this type of this type of rollout. And this is basically the idea that we gave the consultants that when we went through our selection process for the design. So they're well aware of what the limits are. And to be truthful, these limits basically mimic the milestones that were in the design build contract for opening. Contract 1 or milestone 1 was the interchange and a certain portion of the connector road. Milestone 2 was opening from the interchange all the way down through Route 28. And then milestone 3 was the remainder of the project from, down Shenado Road from 28 down to 102. So it mimics what we anticipated to see for a construction work and opening for the design build contract. For those of you that are more visual, the contracts are broken out by contract 1, which would include the entire interchange, the bridge over the interstate, and some of that connector road. What we've limited the connector road is basically the road that's on Woodmont Commons property. Once we get off that, the remainder of the connector road down Folsom Road through the Route 28 intersection, including probably Pinkerton Street intersection would be contract 2. And then contract 3 would be back from the Route 28 intersection all the way down, including the Route 102 improvement. So I lay that out as this is sort of the draft. This is what our vision is. Nobody said, no, this is crazy. But it is sort of up in flux. So once we have the designs done, we'll be able to better, review what the contract breakout will be. To give you an idea of some of the discussion, one of the discussions that we're having is the Route 102 improvements. So if the entire project is open and we're putting more traffic down 102, there's a concern that the unsignalized intersection at 102 may not handle that traffic very well. So we may want to actually accelerate the 102 intersection improvements so that it can handle the influx of traffic. So those are the type of things that we'll be talking about in the future as we break out, as we develop the design more and sort of break out the contracts and see how all that work will sort of come about and be constructed. So from a construction standpoint, the final design will begin in May of 21. So once we get governor and council approval, we will be all hands on deck designing the project. We will advertise the first project in spring of 2022. So next spring, and construction will begin in spring of 22 with a completion date of about fall of 23. So with the second contract, we anticipate advertising that in the fall of 23 with construction beginning in the spring of 24 and being complete in the fall of 25. The third contract, we sort of anticipate advertising the winter of 24 with a construction beginning in the spring of 25 and a completion of that contract in the fall of 26, which would be the entire project completed in the fall of 26. So one of the things and why we've sort of broken the project out this way is the right-of-way acquisition. In contracts 2 and 3, there is a large number of parcels that we have to contact and potentially purchase easements or property acquisitions from. Contract 1 has a limited number. We're already advancing those plans so that we can acquire that property and be ready for a spring of 22 advertising. Contract 2, there's a limited number of parcels in contract 1. We have already started the full acquisitions. We're still advancing those full acquisitions. There were about 12 of those in that area. But contract 1 has about a dozen or so partial acquisitions that we need to be able to construct the project. And we're going to advance those ourselves. And we currently are moving forward with developing plans to acquire those properties so that we have the properties for contract 1 in spring of 22. Contract 2, really the critical path is there's 65 parcels that we potentially have to acquire some sort of impact from. It could be a minor slope easement or driveway easement up to a strip acquisition. And that takes time to do an appraisal, develop the plans to a point where we know exactly how much property we have to acquire. So that's sort of why the advertisement for contract 2 is the fall of 23. Contract 3 actually has more properties on it. There's about 100 properties that would have to be touched in some way, that we have to, again, maybe acquire a temporary easement or a permanent easement, or actually have a strip acquisition. So that takes a lot of time. So in total, contract 2 and 3 have over 165 parcels. And we have to have those property rights in hand before we can advertise. So that is really our critical path in advertising the projects. So what you're seeing in the STIP amendment, and why is there this new project? Well, the existing project, which is Dairy Londonderry 13065, had construction funds obligated. So when we did the design build procurement, one of the things that's a little bit strange in that is when we when we start dealing with contractors, when we issue the RFP, we're starting to work with contractors, and the only way we can make those payments is if we use construction funds. So in the federal rules, and in the procedures that we have to follow, we actually had to obligate construction funds when we issued the RFP. Now, once we obligate construction funds, we actually have to shut off our PE funds. So we can't design anything anymore. So in those federal rules, we also cannot go backwards. So if, like, what we're trying to do is start the design. So we actually have to, we're hiring a designer to finish the design. So that's PE, that's engineering money that we have to obligate. Well, we can't go backwards in the project. So that means we cannot re-obligate or reuse the PE phase in the 13065 project. So basically what we're doing is we're creating a new project, 13065A. We want to move all the PE from the 13065 project that's remaining into the A project. And we're going to move all the remaining construction funds from the 65 project into the 65A project. So that allows us to start, obligate PE money in the A project and finish the design. What we're probably will also do is at least advertise the first construction project under the A project. And in the future, once we know what the contract breakouts are, we will have to create or probably create separate construction only projects. So contract 2 might be a 13065B or C. We might actually have a D project, but we haven't quite figured that out yet. Once we figure out what the contract breakout is, we'll look at creating those projects, moving basically construction funds from the A project into the B, C, or D to cover those construction costs. So we do this typically. This is how we manage the construction projects on, like, I-93 from Salem to Manchester. We have one project that designs the project, and we break out the construction contracts into separate project numbers. The 13065 project, we are going to leave the right-of-way funds in that project and acquire the right-of-way using that project. So there's no issue with using right-of-way funds and keeping it in that project. So really, what you see in the TIP amendment is to move the PE out of the 65 project into the A project so that we can go basically backwards and start and finish the design, and then move the construction funds from the 6.5 project into the A project. So there's a clean split into the old project, which was design build, and the new project, which is design bid build. So it's a clean split. So that is really what the TIP amendment is about. You may notice one of the things is that the money, there's a little bit of a cost increase in construction. So it looks like there's more money, and basically that's inflation. We moved the construction money from what should have been 2020 out to 23, 24, and we inflate that. So it looks like there's a little bit more money. Where did we get that money? It's basically inflation from moving it into outer years. So that's why the numbers don't match exactly with what we had in 2020 to what's in the TIP. So with that, I can open it up, take any questions. The one thing I will say is, and why am I involved, is one of the things that happened just before the bids were received is our project manager on this, Keith Coda, retired from state service after 42 years. He thought he was going to retire after the bids were received, but he actually retired about 2 weeks before the bids were received, and they asked me to fill in. They assured me it's only going to be 2 weeks. Once the bids are received, it'll go to construction and somebody else will take over. That wasn't the case. So we've been limping along with me trying to work on this. But the light at the end of the tunnel is Wendy Johnson, who's here, is actually going to take over as project manager on this project. Wendy is well-versed and one of our most experienced project managers. She's actually the project manager on the I-93 Salem to Manchester project. So she knows the corridor well, she knows the communities well, and so you couldn't be in better hands. So you will probably not hear from me on this project anymore. It will be Wendy's. So with that, I'll take any questions anybody has.
Question?
Yes.
Bill, this is John O'Connor from Derry. Can you tell me what your numbers were for the COLA increases for inflation for the going forward?
We use 2.8% per year. I do not have how much it actually increased. Because what we did is we split in the TIP. We had about rough numbers. I think it's in construction. It was like a $2 or $3 million increase because we moved money. We have 21 million in 22, 28 million in 23, and 13 million in 24. So the grand total is $62 million. But I think we were only holding about 60 million in the previous.
One follow-up question, between Derry and Londonderry, do you know how much is remaining on what's required of the two towns to put in from the original 5 million each?
I do not. The last number I had heard was about 1.7 million in each town.
So Bill, we had just met with the two towns last week, and basically we went through each one of the numbers with them, and it turns out that there's rough numbers about 675 that we have left, and you divide that by the two towns, so it turned out to be like 340 left for each one of the municipalities. It wasn't a perfect divide on the split for the costs.
Okay, thank you.
And that's why Wendy's on board.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. Regarding all those properties that we need to get agreements with, how are they going to be dealt with under design build?
So under the design build, we did have a public hearing, which gave us the rights to, acquire the property. The design builder had hired a right-of-way firm that specializes in right-of-way acquisition. So that firm was going to have to, work with the designer. The designer was to develop plans, and then that firm would appraise the property, reach out to the property owners, and coordinate or make offers and negotiate with the property owners and acquire the property. The DOT would review all the documents, all the offers, and everything else. But it was put onto the design build team to acquire the properties. We are basically doing the same thing with this design bid build. We've asked the designer to hire a right-of-way firm to go through this process. They will be, doing the appraisals, negotiating with the property owners, and making offers and acquiring the property with our oversight. So the process hasn't changed as much. Really, what the difference is getting the design plans done, and then being able to acquire that property prior to construction. Under the design build, that was going on at the same time. The contractor could actually be out there constructing the project, but he could only work on those properties that he had acquired. So he could prioritize which properties he needed to continue the work. Gave them a little bit more flexibility, but it allowed them to be under construction without having all the properties acquired. With the design bid build process that we're going through now, we actually have to have all the properties acquired before we can go out to construction. So that's one of the major differences.
Hi, Bill. It's Peter Griffin from Windham. There seem like a large number of properties that will be taken for this project. Has any estimate been done either by your department or the various towns as what will be the loss in taxable income to the communities when these properties are taken, the number of pieces of developable land or conservation land or historic buildings that will be taken?
So there's only about there's actually 12 parcels that are total acquisitions, and in most cases we're working with those properties to relocate, and in most cases they're relocating in the same community. The other parcels, the 165 I'm talking about, are usually minor impacts. So if there's a temporary easement or a slope easement, in general terms, there's usually no impact to the property values. So your town appraisal or your assessment probably in most cases won't be affected. And in the minor cases where there might be a strip acquisition, the impacts are relatively small. Where you see the differences is in the total acquisitions where we're actually acquiring the property and relocating, the business or the residents. I don't have a dollar amount on how that'll affect property taxes. I don't even know if one exists. I know that one of the number that we have in right away, which is what we are, potentially paying out, is about $9 million. I would say that most of, a good portion of that are the 12 total acquisitions, because those are the most costly. Because we're acquiring the entire parcel, and in most cases relocating that business, or which are most of the acquisitions, those businesses, or in some cases the residences, to either relocating them into a new home or reestablishing their business elsewhere.
Thank
But
you.
I don't know exactly what the impact to the tax rate or the property values for the town would be.
I have a question, Andrew Haddock, for the town of Chester. I and many Chester residents drive Chenito Road to get to the more modern section of Derry's business district, north of Route 102. I drive it numerous times a week, and Chenito Road, with the phase 3 portion, has already got a pretty good amount of congestion. And so your timeline show that you'll be finishing phase 1 and adding that additional traffic pressure to Chenito Road 3 years ahead of completing the construction of phase 3. So, I back this up sort of with my experience this summer on the west side of Route 102, right over 93. All that construction work there and all the traffic delays it caused. I know that you have more easements to get, but it's almost, I mean, you're setting yourself up for 3 years for that part of Derry to have a very significant congestion situation. I know there's some timing issues, but it would make sense to do your Chenito Road improvements in phase 3 before you subject it to that full traffic impact from phase 1.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And we've debated this issue back and forth and numerous times about the timing and the sequencing of the work. In reality, as this contract 1, it doesn't get you anywhere. It builds an interchange, and the connector road doesn't, as laid out, doesn't actually connect to anything. So it's really the work in contract 2 that gets people from 4A to a road. Like it will connect to Folsom Road and actually get you, through to 28. And so contract 1 actually won't divert any traffic, at least the way it's laid out. Contract 2 would be when the interchange is actually open and you would see traffic, diverting. So that becomes the question of how many people are going to, so this is a new route. So people that take 4A are obviously taking it to get, if you're going to 102, to get to 102 faster and easier, instead of using exit 4 or exit 5. So the debate was, and still is, if Chenito Road is under construction, will people really use 4A, knowing that they have to go through the work on Chenito, or will they just stay using exit 4 or exit 5 and getting onto 102 the way they do and just wait? So there will be those people that will go through 4A to do the work, or to get there, that will go through Chenito Road to 102. And those are the ones that we want to pay particular attention to, especially at 102, is making sure those improvements are done. One of the things that we're going to review, and one of the restrictions we put on the design build contractor, was that during the morning and evening commute, they needed to maintain traffic on Chenito Road, 1 lane in each direction. That was actually one of the premium costs that we were paying under the design build contract. So, not to stretch this conversation out, but that was one of their issues. Was we said, basically you had to have 2 lanes open until 9 o'clock in the morning. So from 7 to 9 during the morning commute, you had to have the road open as it exists today. And then basically from 4 to 6 in the evening commute, you had to have the road back open. So it only gave a very short period of time from 9 to 3 or so where the contractor could actually work on Shenandoah Road. So he had to excavate the road, put in the drainage, redo the utilities and everything else in very small segments, because he only had a 4-hour block of work before he had to fill all that back in and make the road passable for the evening commute. And he had to, because it's a residential area, there's no lay down facility. He had to bring in equipment every morning. So it was literally building the road with a teaspoon. So that is one of the premiums that we saw the contractor bid it on. One of the contractors basically said, you paid 60% more just for the work on Shenandoah Road. So that's one of the things that we want to look at, is actually the work on Shenandoah Road, the timing of the work, the involvement of the work, to see if we can actually get that done faster and more efficient and cheaper. So you're exactly right, and that's a debate we're going to have, and it'll be one of those things that we scope out with the designer and the traffic control. Is, does the phasing, these 3 contracts, make sense from a, just a traffic impact standpoint? So that was a long answer for, you're exactly right.
Okay, I think that's the last of the questions, Jeff. And we want to thank certainly Bill. That was fantastic. I know I appreciated that presentation. That clarified a lot of questions I had, and I'm sure the rest of my staff and the commissioners. So thank you very much. We appreciate your time. And of course, Wendy, thank you.
All right. Thank you. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact Wendy.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. I'm back. So move on to fiscal year 2021 to 2045 Metropolitan Transportation Plan. Nate?
I'm actually going to yield to Carl to do this component of the agenda. So Carl's going to head over right now.
Hi, everybody. Bear with me a second. I'll bring this up.
And while they're all setting up, sorry if I muted people. We had some background noise during that. I heard all sorts of fun things, so I might have muted you. But you can all unmute yourself when you want to ask a question.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Again, my name is Carl Epic. I'm Principal Transportation Planner here at SNHPC. And this is your slideshow. What we have here is, you may recall, we released the draft of the plan as a nice Christmas Eve gift to the region on the 23rd of December. And the comment period followed and went through the 22nd, last Thursday. And we received, I had about 38 comments to go through here. Some are very quick and some are grouped. The first 10 or so are grouped.
Can I ask you to speak up because it's really hard to hear you?
Yeah, sure. Where should I be? There's the microphone there.
It's actually there.
All right, I'm going to just bring it over a little bit.
It's just the mask problem thing.
Yeah, I know. I'll try and speak louder too. I still can't get this to go into slideshow.
You do sound better now, Carl, now that you moved the microphone.
Sylvia, any secrets with getting this to go to slideshow mode? I guess I can just go through it like this.
Well, I guess first you have to share and then we can, once you put it into your slideshow and then just share from there. But
I'll try that.
Somehow Mark Sunan always knows exactly what to do. So I'm sure he's watching too.
Can you all see it now?
Yes.
Okay. Well, it still won't click in the slideshow mode. Doesn't want to do that. So I'll just scroll through it. It may snap into it. I don't know. Let's see. Okay. So again, we have this MTP, which we update every 5 years. 20 years or further looking into the future. And the MTP feeds the 10-year plan, the TYP, and ultimately our TIP, our Transportation Improvement Plan. So it's a very important document as far as getting transportation projects built throughout the region. It includes our adopted policies, goals, and project proposals to improve transportation throughout the region, again, through the year 2045. I already mentioned we released this on the 23rd, 30-day period included on the 22nd. And we have 38 external comments, and of course we have some internal comments as well, which we've been addressing. We're going to review our proposed responses right now. And I just encourage you, if you have any questions, do ask them, but I want to try and get through this rather rapidly, considering it's 12:20 already. We will have the opening of a public hearing. And then at that point, any additional comments from any of you will be taken. And then we will need to close that public hearing, followed by action potentially on plan adoption. So that's what we're up to right now. So just to get into comments received, and these are going to be a little bit out of context. So if you have a copy of the plan, either hard copy or digital, you can follow along there. But a lot of these aren't actual tweaks to inside of the plan. At least these first 13, they're more just addressing the questions as far as answering some of the questions about timeliness on projects, as you'll see. This first one, there are references to US 3A. Note that is NH 3A. We're going to correct this reference in places where it exists in the plan on pages 56 and 62. The second general comment here is on page 38, item 3. It states that New Hampshire 28 bypass is the only road in New Hampshire officially signed as a bypass. It is the only state highway signed as a bypass, but not the only road signed as a bypass. It's getting into semantics a bit, but our proposed response here is to clarify that New Hampshire Route 28 is the only state highway signed as a bypass on the page 38 reference page.
Excuse me, Carl,
Sure.
your slides haven't been advancing.
That is so weird. They're advancing here. Let me stop share. Thanks, Mark. And share screen. Screen 2. Do you guys see number 3, general comments continued 3?
No, we still see the cover.
I don't know what to say.
All right, why don't I open it up and
Yeah, so I think maybe Carl has to stop sharing.
I'm going to stop sharing. Sorry about that, everybody.
all right. It's just going to take me a second. I'm guessing that you have this in the,
Yeah, but I mean, I need to close out of it.
I don't think so.
It's Carl Desktop MTP 1.
Okay.
Are you trying to show that on your screen?
That's all they can say. It won't advance.
And so if you click the mouse over to that, will it start moving that slide?
I'm not showing it. Yeah.
There it goes.
Let me try something else, Sylvia.
Sure.
How do I assign it to that one? That's screen 2, right? Is that working?
You got to share it, Carl, in the lower right corner. It says share in that window.
Yep. Jim, you want to try this?
Oh, we see something.
We like it.
Is it changing now?
Yeah. Congratulations.
So much fun. All right. So we've gotten through this. I think this is where we were. General comments continued. Number 3. Generally, there is not enough funding for multi-use paths, trails, and ped bike projects. There needs to be more state funding other than TAP and municipal funds. Where possible, more ped bike work needs to be included with the nearby highway projects. The ped bike projects are important and should have priority to get done sooner. And our proposed response here is within our goals area, we have a goal 2.3 And these each have an objective, and this is the one we proposed, adding an objective to advocate for bicycle and pedestrian improvements to be incorporated into the scope of nearby highway projects where feasible. It's really at the discretion of our communities to ask for it. Then we get into project comments here. It's still moving forward, I hope. Number one, an intersection that I feel really needs improvement is the intersection of Hackett Hill Road with New Hampshire 3A. Hackett Hill Road connects New Hampshire 3A to the Turnpike at the toll road area, and traffic is often backed up trying to turn into New Hampshire 3A. A roundabout would be a good option for this intersection. I want to note that NHDOT is working on 2 intersections along New Hampshire 3A and Bow, and there's the project number 29641 that has 4.3444582 million program that are not as severe as this intersection. I do see that there is, this is the name we have in our plan, a Hook 01 study in 2031, but not sure if this project would address this intersection. This intersection has been needing work for a long time and should be improved now. And this is a very high priority area for the town of Hooksett. There's 2 large logistics centers planned in the area. And as a first step, the town has identified the need to conduct a corridor study to determine the preferred design alternative. And the town of Hooksett intends to apply for this funding through a pending NHDOT corridor study program solicitation with the hope of completing that study within the next 2 years. We, the SNHPC, supports the town's efforts to secure corridor funding, study funding as soon as possible. This study is shown as occurring in FY 2031 in the draft MTP only because it is not currently in the adopted fiscal year 2021-2030 10-year plan. It's the first year out of the 10-year plan, so it's as high as a priority as it can be in the MTP. Number 2 is about Bedford 40664. This is the, everybody should be familiar with this, the US 3 widening South River Road, 2019, 22. It only has PE in here, and Bedford 01 in 2031 should be moved up sooner, as well as Bedford 09 should be done along with this project. This is, again, there's not enough funding for this, and Bedford just asked for funding additional. So our response proposed here is construction for this project is programmed to begin in 2026. Again, programmed to do the project in 2026. However, the construction phase of the project is not fully funded in fiscal year 2021-2030 10-year plan. Thus, supplemental construction funding is included in FY 2031 in the draft NPP. The SNHPC is aware of the importance of this project and will coordinate with the town of Bedford and New Hampshire DOT to ensure that the project is fully funded and proceeds to construction in 2026. Number 3 here, Bedford 06, 10-foot multi-use path along New Hampshire 101 should be included within the limits of Bedford 03 and Bedford 05. These are all New Hampshire 101 corridor projects of improvements to some curb cuts, includes multi-use paths, and I think the bridge over 101. Our proposed response here to this is there may be possibility to include portions of the multi-use path envisioned in Project Bed 06 as part of the scope of Project Bed 03 and Project Bedford 05. However, we believe there is utility in separately listing Bedford 06 as a standalone project to demonstrate explicit planning support for any transportation alternatives or discretionary funding application the town may submit to seek funding for this project. And you'll see going forward here, there's a bunch of these types of comments that are dependent on discretionary funding, and the logical source related to bike ped projects is TAP funds, and that requires an application from the towns to come to request those funds. So that's our proposed response for these projects here. Number 4, switching to Derry, town of Derry 01. The comment is about moving this important trail link in the rail trail to be done as part of the Exit 4A project that we just had a presentation on, not in 2031. Note that Londonderry is extending the trail to Manchester in 2021 via Project 42508, and Londonderry Lawn 05 Rail Trail to Derry Town Line is in 2033. Move up to do with Exit 4A or completed at the same time. That's word for word the comment. And again, this project is shown as occurring in 2031. The draft NTP only because it is not currently in the adopted 10-year plan. The town of Darien has submitted this project for consideration in the 2023-2032 10-year plan, which we've had a presentation, and we know about all those submittals from the fall. And that update process, through that update process, is also pursuing, now that they've asked for solicitation, TAP funding, Transportation Alternatives Program application, that could bring this project to construction substantially before FY 2031. Long answers, but a lot of information. Okay, 5 and 6 here. That's not advancing again. I got to do it over here. There we go. 5 and 6. More project comments. Note that Manchester 42509 and 4288 is in 2021, not 2024. Manchester 13 rail trail and road into South Commercial to Queen City Ave is 2034 to 2035. This needs to be done sooner. And then also to move up Manchester 15 and 16 with the commuter rail and move Manchester 18, which is program 2035, 2036 to rail trail. Again, these are all projects not currently in the 10-year plan. And the city of Manchester is pursuing federal highway discretionary funds, a build grant, to complete projects in Manchester 13 through Manchester 16 as expeditiously as possible. The SNHPC is working closely with the city on this effort and will continue to try and advance these projects construction as soon as feasible. Number 7, back to Derry Londonderry exit 4A, needs to do more than ped bike improvements. I would suggest that a side path along the new roadway should be included to connect the trolley path and the Derry Rail Trail. This is all part of the network, and missing links and connections should be done as soon as possible to all be completed when 4A is finished. And our proposed response is that this project is advanced into engineering phase work. Supplemental draft environmental impact statement has been completed and a record of decision has been issued. And as we know, comments on the scope of this project should be directed to Wendy Johnson, project manager for NHDOT. Project comment 8, Wyndham 02, Wyndham Greenway Trail, 2036. Why so late? Should be done sooner. Again, our proposed response, this project is not currently in the 10-year plan, nor has the town proposed it for consideration in FY 2031-2032 as part of the pending 10-year plan update process. And to advance this project to construction in a more advanced timeline, the town of Wyndham may consider applying for a transportation alternative program funding. Number 9, this is a regional with the Reg 03, and it's because it would be Goffstown and New Boston. This is the Goffstown and New Boston Rail Trail, Connect 2031, move it up. So it's currently, again, because it's not in the 10-year plan, our proposed response, this project is not currently included in the FY 2021-2030 10-year plan, nor have the affected towns proposed it for consideration in FY 2031 or 2032 as part of the pending 10-year plan update process. To advance this project into construction on a more advanced timeline, towns may consider applying for transportation alternative program funding. Number 10, again, Goffstown Rail Trail. He's asking if this has already been done or is this the pave? This is the sections, the unpaved section, so from the village center to the Scatawag River. Our proposed response, this project would involve upgrades to 7 sections. There's a plan for this of the Goffstown Rail Trail totaling 1.93 miles, consistent with the town's 2018 TAP grant scope of work, which is where this project came from for our Metropolitan Transportation Plan. Wasn't funded. And now, our response recommendation is the town may again consider applying for TAP funding for this project. Current round. Number 11, this is related to the Hooksett 05 Riverwalk Trail, asking why it's programmed in 2038, why so late? Needs to be done sooner, connect with the Manchester Heritage Trail. In Bedford, include a project to pave the Heritage Trail along the river. Heritage Trail in Manchester needs to connect to the Heritage Trail in Bedford, and would suggest connecting by having a path over the Merrimack River on the I-293 New Hampshire 101 bridge. And our proposed response, to advance this project to construction on a more advanced timeline, the communities may consider applying for TAP funding. The proposed placement of the path on the I-293 New Hampshire 101 bridge would be at the discretion of the Hampshire DOT. Number 12, and we're almost at the end of these project comments. As part of the New Hampshire 114 study, 41859 and Goffstown 01 include a side multi-use path that would connect to the Goffstown Rail Trail. Our proposed response is we will encourage the consideration of this path in the pending NH 114 corridor study, project 41859. And our understanding is that DOT is in the process of getting this going. Hopefully by the end of the spring, we'll have the study underway. The study can help determine the feasibility of this path as proposed here and set the stage for future construction projects. Last one here, figure 18 within the plan shows the connection along Pettingill Road, Londonderry, to connect the Grand State Rail Trail and into the path over the Manchester Airport Access Road path. Basically, just there is a graphic there, a map that shows unbuilt rail trail and unbuilt trail, but shows this connection needing to be done. And if you zoom in, it's hard to see because it's region-wide map. But this is correct. That's what the figure shows. That's our response. So now onto some more comments, and some of these are general and won't take as much explanation. But again, if there's anything that's scratching your head and don't understand, let me know. This review by this person did not highlight any minor items such as spelling typos and grammar. It is assumed that the authors will conduct a thorough screening of the text to address these issues. And yes, we are in the process. Specifically on page 8, there's a space, and this was also mentioned as a typical thing to correct, spaces between the figure titles and additional text. And yes, indeed, we will do these edits wherever we see them. Number 3, on page 9, what is intended by this statement in labor present in the Northeast? This is a table that shows different categories of labor, like agriculture, government, industrial, throughout all the towns in the region. It just needs some clarification. Our proposed response, the statement refers to a higher cost of living and the higher cost of labor. And we're just going to clarify this in the text so that it reads that way. On page 12, the text is, this is the last one, 5 industries, but 6 are listed in the table. Clarify, we will correct this text. It's just the number's wrong. Number 5 on page 12, does order of prominence mean something different than ranked order or percentage? And our proposed response is no, but for simplicity, we will delete the term order of prominence. Number 6 on page 13, should this be exit 4A? I think it shows it as exit 4. Yes, we'll change it to 4A. On page 13, is there any reason that this consultant was called out? There's a consultant listed in the narrative. Consider just indicating that NHDOT will continue this work into 2022. And our proposed response, no, the consulting firm's name was provided simply as a topical update on this project. This sentence can be generalized to say, quote, New Hampshire DOT executed a contract with a consulting firm to perform this work during 2021 and 2022. Number 8 on page 19, is this a place to mention that the FAST Act has maintained the outdated formula that sees New Hampshire as the lowest funded state? And our proposed response, we can add this context to the discussion of the FAST Act on page 19. Again, on page 19, comment 9 here, consider adding a paragraph about the 4th C, connectivity. And our proposed response, we're going to clarify that the 3 C's, and this is in quotes because continuing, comprehensive, and cooperative refers to, in this portion of the text, related to the federal metropolitan planning requirements of 23 USC 134 C3. It's metropolitan transportation planning language, and that other considerations like connectivity are important goals of SNHPC's planning process. I talked to James Vayo before this, and we both believe that connectivity is actually one of the planning factors that's listed in the MTP. So connectivity is throughout our policy and priorities in different places. Number 10 on page 21, consider including unfunded projects identified in the SEDS program. And our proposed response, we did consider SEDS projects in the development of the MTP, and some are included in the MTP program of projects. We will note the SEDS as a source for projects accordingly. Number 11, On page 36, is it worth mentioning that several of these services were briefly suspended in 2020 due to COVID? This is regarding transit and MTA. Our proposed response, the temporary disruption suspension of public transit services due to COVID is discussed early in the document. If you look in section 1.4, there's a whole, right up front in the document, we talk about COVID and its impact on transportation this year. Number 12 on page 39, consider retitling these to be freight moved in New Hampshire by value and by weight. And again, I believe this is a table. We will clarify these titles within the document. Number 13, and although we're only on page 47, we're more than halfway through these comments. This section seems to have a much more statewide focus than the SNHPC focus. Consider trimming down to just the SNHPC region. There's another comment on this page about this is about the rail, statewide rail. The table is too statewide focused. What is the trackage in the SNHPC region? What is its class and status? Show segments of this route that would be within the SNHPC region. Our proposed response is the statewide information is provided as context to aid in the understanding the rail connections that the SNHPC region has north to Concord and south to Nashville and ultimately to Boston. However, we agree that table 2 could be refined to a region-specific focus with the class and status. So we'll be looking at modifying. And 14 is related on page 48. This is too statewide focused for the SNHPC region MTP at the very least. Outline the SNHPC communities on this map. Again, a map of rail throughout the state. Our proposed response, we agree and will replace this map with a map that highlights the SNHPC region's context in the larger Southern New Hampshire rail network. Number 15 on page 50, ITS, which stands for Intelligent Transportation Systems, is mentioned, but it may not be worthwhile to separately indicate a future of connected and automated vehicles, and we agree and can add this context. 16 on page 82 seems like something is missing here. This is simply a typo. It had the ampersand B series task. There's a list of 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, and 600 is tasks. This typo should read 600 series tasks. 17 on page 84, does the mention of ITS not warrant reference to New Hampshire DOT's TSMO and or traffic as coordinating agencies? Our proposed response is that rather than just NHDOT, Bureau of Environment, we can edit this list to say NHDOT, Bureau of Environment, and other affected bureaus. It's a list of a bunch of different agencies that are involved. So we're happy to modify that. Number 18, as you can see, we're getting up here, almost into the hundreds. On page 91, for state revenues, does the fiscal constraint assume any increase in gas tax or tolls? And our proposed response is no. The assumed 1% per year increase in turnpike revenue beyond FY 2031 is simply based on a historic trend extrapolation. And I think we're here almost the end here on page 124 and 126. What are the units associated with this table? Parcels, square footage, SF. And our proposed response is this table is about employment units, our jobs, household units or households, and population units of persons. These tables will be clarified accordingly. And these are just a couple of general comments we had upon going through the document. Clarify that the scope of project 428886 is a roundabout at the intersection of River Road and Bicentennial Drive. That's in Manchester. This is just a typo and will be corrected accordingly. And then the second one here is the denominator for the federal aid roads O&M table has a statewide cost per mile based on total roadway lane miles statewide, rather than just federal aid eligible lane miles statewide. And our proposed response is, again, this is a typo and will be corrected accordingly. So that is going through all the comments received today. At this point, we're looking for open the public hearing and any further comments from you all or any other questions. Thank you.
I think that the discussions that have taken place tonight today on this are of significant value to our efforts.
Thanks, Dick. I saw a question from Mark.
Going back to, I think, project comment number 4, and I thought it was probably related to project comment number 7. You referenced the Dairy 01 project as part of a path that should be incorporated into 4A, but you also answered that the response to a similar comment for number 7 indicated that it wasn't part of the EA and that would require DOT input. Wouldn't that also be true of project comment number 4?
I believe so. I can add that. So just that similar application of EIS. Same thing for 7 and 4, Mark. Did I get that right?
Yes, correct. They seem to be related and therefore have the same sort of response.
I know you guys can't see this right now, right? I'm just going back to look. Town of Derry. Okay, I got it. And 7. Yes. Okay. I can edit that.
Okay. I think we no longer have Jeff to chair the meeting, so that
No,
leaves.
Sylvia, I'm here.
Oh, you are here. I thought you had to leave early. I'm so glad you're there. Okay, perfect.
Ducked out for a few minutes.
All right, I think we're ready for a motion, right, Carl?
Oh, again, I think we need to open a public hearing.
Yeah, this is technically the public hearing, so if there are any comments from the public or any other, and now would be the time to hear those. Otherwise, certainly we would welcome a motion to adopt the plan with the amendments that Carl just reviewed.
I so move.
That was Barbara Salvatore.
Second, Linda Kuhnhart, Francistown.
Thanks, Linda. Jeff, should I go through the
Yeah, so
group?
I don't hear any
Okay.
questions, so go ahead.
All right, great. From Bedford, I saw we had Bill DeShacco join us.
Aye.
Thanks, Bill. Charlie,
Aye.
Bill Jean,
Aye.
Barbara Salvatore.
Aye.
From Candia, Al Hall. Linda, are you muted there or?
Here, and he said yes.
He did?
Yep.
Okay, for whatever reason, you guys cut out a couple of times. It's weird.
Huh.
Let's see, Dick Snow, Lise. Let's see, from Chester, Andrew Haddock.
Hey.
Deb Munson,
Aye.
Deerfield, Bob Cody.
Yes.
Thanks, Bob. Derry, we have Jeff
Yes.
and John O'Connor.
Yes.
Thanks, John. From Francistown, Alfred.
Yes.
Thanks, Alfred. And Linda
Yes.
and Patrick.
Yes.
From Goffstown, we have David.
Approve.
Thanks, David. From Londonderry, Brian.
Yes.
And I saw Suzanne Brunel come.
Yes.
Thanks, Suzanne. Deb Levens,
Yes.
Art,
Yes.
and Martin.
Yes.
Thanks, Marty. From Manchester, we have Peter,
Yes.
Ray. Can't hear Ray. I see the phone. I can't hear Ray. And Dan O'Neill.
Yes, and I'm going to be leaving the meeting.
Okay, thanks for being here, Dan. New Boston, we have Mark.
So consistent with my past performance being indicative of future results, I'm going to vote nay until I can see the results of the way the comments are addressed.
Thank you for being consistent, Mark.
This is Ray here from Manchester. Hello?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I'll vote yes on that.
Thanks, Ray. Let's see, from where we have Tom.
Yes.
Thanks, Tom. From Wyndham, we have Peter.
Yes.
And then from Our voting member from DOT is William Rose.
Count me as an abstention.
Thanks, William. And Mike Whitten.
Yes.
Thanks, Mike. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Dick Snow from Candia voting yes, and I've got Mark's email.
Okay, thank you. All right, Jeff, I think we're ready for our last item on the agenda. Although while Nate is getting ready, can I just mention that you saw a lot of the comments and our feedback was, hey, towns, get the TAP programs in. And I think, Nate, if you might mention something about the TAP applications, I think the whole process is open right now. And you're muted, Nate.
We were going to be covering that after this agenda.
We do have a plug on that later in the meeting, but yes, the TAP program is open, and the key thing to remember, and additional details are up on the DOT's website. So if you were to go to Google and type in New Hampshire DOT Transportation Alternatives Program, it would bring you right to the state website. All of the details are up there. The key thing to remember with that is that the deadline for letters of intent is February 5th. So with that particular program, you must submit a letter of intent. Your community must submit a letter of intent in order to apply for funding. If you don't submit a letter of intent, then you're not eligible to when the full application period comes out. We have already had the town of Derry submit a letter of intent for the final section of the rail trail north to the Londonderry town line. So we already have at least one letter of intent that's been submitted in the region. But please do, if there are lots of, as Carl discussed, lots of pedestrian projects of interest around the region. If your community wants to pursue funding on a earlier than through the 10-year plan, then the TAP program is the best way of doing that. Those projects typically go to construction within a few years of being funded. So it's a good way to get a bicycle pedestrian project done expeditiously. And our staff is here as always to provide any technical assistance your community may need in putting a letter of intent together, or ultimately putting the full application together.
Okay, so we're going to go back to the agenda on the Southern New Hampshire fiscal year 2021 to 2024 Transportation Improvement Program TIP.
Correct. Can everybody see a full screen for the TIP?
Yes.
Okay, I do realize I've got about 10 minutes or so, so I'm not going to go into the level of detail I normally would. I'm going to hit the highlights here. But it is, when we talk about our TIP, we are talking about the next 4 years. So these are really projects that have advanced significantly. They're on their way to construction. They've made their way through the 10-year plan process. So we go from concept to construction. We look at the long-range plan out to 2045, which is a federal requirement. Then advance into the state's 10-year plan, a state requirement that goes out 10 years. And then the first 4 years of the 10-year plan are essentially our TIP, our Transportation Improvement Program. That's another federal requirement. So that's kind of laid out on this slide, how projects go from concept to construction. So when we're talking about the TIP, we're talking about those projects that are closest to construction and headed to construction in the next 4 years. And coordinating with our colleagues at the state level at New Hampshire DOT to update our TIP for this fiscal year 2021 to 2024 period. We released our draft public review and comment on January 22nd. So last Friday, we released our draft TIP. It is available on the front page HPC website under news and notices. You can download it there, or you can also download TIP webpage. We have a specific TIP webpage. So a couple different places you can download it on the website. We will also be including a copy of it in your packets for the next meeting. We, on Friday, opened a 30-day public comment period. That 30-day comment period will until February 22nd. And then the following day, February 23rd, your meeting next month, we will hold a public hearing to hear any final comments or any comments in the proposed tip and consider adoption of the proposed tip. What is in the tip?
Nate,
Yes.
Nate, I'm sorry to interrupt here, but I don't know if you can do anything about it. Maybe just remove the microphone, the extension, because you keep cutting out like every 10th word or something.
Well, I do get a little thing here on the computer in our conference room that says our internet is occasionally unstable. So I'm not sure that I have a lot of control over the cutting out, but hopefully we'll be able to make it work as best we can. Some of the highlights here for projects in the tip. Bedford 13692, this is the bridge replacement over Pulpit Brook on Route 101. No changes of significance here. This project is headed towards construction in 2021 and is on its way. Bedford 40664, this is the Route 3 widening from Hawthorne Drive to the Manchester Airport Access Road. We've got about $2.1 million worth of funding in the tip. Construction is scheduled to begin in 2026. And some of the initial PE phase work will now begin in 2021. So the majority of the cost of this project is still beyond our tip horizon, but you're starting to see PE and right-of-way efforts in our tip. Bedford Merrimack 16100, this is the Bedford project. It is shown in the tip headed towards construction in 2021. We do anticipate the project is likely to eventually be delayed to 2023, 2020, because the Department of Transportation is developing that as an all-electronic concept project. So I do expect that that project will ultimately be delayed to 2023, 24. Bow 29641, and once again the internet is unstable here, so hopefully you all can hear me fairly well, but apologize.
Apparently there was a big shutdown this morning.
Yeah, apologize for the connectivity issues there.
Internet, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't have it the same.
Yeah. So Bow 29641, this is not in our region, but we carry this project in our tip because it involves a portion of the Manchester urbanized area under the census. So we have to, under federal requirement, carry this project in Bow. If anybody's interested in learning more about this particular project, the DOT does have a website, project-specific information for this project in Bow, and certainly you could Google this project and find the website on it. We carry this project just because it's partially in the Manchester urbanized area. It's actually not in our planning region per se. Candia, the Four Corners Operational and Safety Improvement Project. You see a little bit of funding appearing for the first time in the tip, just under 175,000. That is for some initial engineering phase work that will now begin in 2022. But this project is still scheduled for construction in 28, which is beyond our tip horizon. So there's a long way to go on this project, but you're seeing it appear in the tip for the first time due to that engineering phase work happening. Deerfield, the 107 bridge over Freeze's Pond, still headed towards construction in 2022. No significant change there. Londonderry, I'm going to, not talk about this in detail because Bill Oldenburg really talked about this project in detail and gave some good context for tip for the Londonderry Exit 4A project. So I'm just going to skip right over this slide in the interest of time. Hooksett, the widening of Route 27 to Alice Avenue. That's headed towards construction in 2024. No changes of significance in the tip. It hasn't slipped in schedule. It hasn't, had a cost change of any significance. So continues to move forward towards construction as expected. Londonderry 41953. This is the intersection of Route 28 and 128. It's appearing in the tip for the first time because it's got a little bit of engineering work that's going to start in 2023. But the majority of this project is beyond our tip horizon with construction scheduled in 27. Londonderry Route 28 and Stonehenge Road project. This project has been delayed to 2023 with the concurrence of the town. And that delay is to allow for right-of-way acquisition that's needed to accommodate some MS4 stormwater control measures. So this project is delayed a little bit to 2023. Continues to progress through the engineering and right-of-way process. Londonderry multi-use path that will ultimately connect to the Manchester City line and the South Manchester Rail Trail. That's a TAP project from last cycle. That project continues to be programmed 22 and is under development by the town. Manchester 99 and 16099B. This is the exit 6 and 7 project. So the 16099 is for engineering and right-of-way. 16099B is for the exit 7 reconstruction portion. No significant change here. The construction for exit 7 continues to be 24 to 26, and the construction schedule for exit 6 continues to be 25 to 28, which is entirely beyond our tip horizon, but no of significance there. These projects continue to be. Manchester 29811. This is the South Manchester Rail 2 from Gold Street to Perimeter Road, anticipated to go to construction this year in 2021. The Redless Bridge carrying Hughes Road over I-293 in the city of Manchester. That has been advanced. The state has really made a good focus on state-owned redless bridges. This bridge has moved quickly, and construction is now scheduled for fiscal year 2021. So that bridge will be addressed in short order. Manchester, the exit 1 interchange. Again, this is construction in 2028, which is beyond our tip horizon, but it's seeing some of that initial work programmed in 24. So it's appearing for the first time in our tip for that reason. Manchester, the Granite Street adaptive signal control and South Willow Street signal upgrades, that is continues to be programmed for fiscal year 2022. No change of significance there. The South Willow Street and Weston Road project, this was funded in the last CMAQ solicitation. That is programmed for 2023. It's the first time appearing in our tip just because it was funded last CMAQ solicitation. So headed towards construction in 2023. Same thing with this project, which is the roundabout at River Road and Bicentennial Drive, was funded in the last CMAQ round and is headed toward in 2024. Nashua Merrimack Bedford, this is the expansion Everett Turnpike, one of the biggest projects in the state. Only a portion of that project actually occurred in the region. So I'm seeing that the internet connection, is unstable again, so I may have broken up there, but only a portion of the Turnpike project is within our region. And so you'll only see the projects within our region. There are other FE Everett Turnpike projects happening, but those exist within Merrimack and Nashua and don't appear in our tip for that reason. Where the Route 77 bridge over Canal 2 of Choate Brook. This is scheduled, another one of these projects that's scheduled beyond our tip horizon for construction in 28. However, some engineering phase work will be happening in 2024, so it's appearing in our tip for the first time for that reason. Wyndham, the intersection improvements at 28 and Ralston Road, same story here. Project construction is beyond our tip horizon in 2026. However, it's appearing for the first time in our tip because there's some engineering phase work that will be happening in 22. We also continue a number of Salem to Manchester projects. These are the I-93 expansion projects. They're pretty much all debt service projects at this point. So the 14633 project, the 14800B project, the 14800C and F projects are all debt service projects, federally supported debt service projects, except for 14633, which is state supported debt service. We continue to carry all of those in our tip because they do require federal resources. The Route 101 corridor study project 13692. This is traffic and safety improvements in Wilton, Milford, Amherst, and Bedford. we don't know the final scope of work yet, and we're staying tuned for that. It's likely that most of that work, I believe, on projects in Amherst, not necessarily in Bedford, but we're continuing to carry the project because it could benefit the town of Bedford in the future. We also carry our transit projects in the TIP. So we have 3. The first one is for our Manchester Transit Authority 5307 urbanized area funding. That's general funding for MTA's operations, paratransit, preventative maintenance, and planning. No changes from the last TIP on any of MTA's programs. So 5310, which is funding for seniors and disabilities in the CART service area, no changes of significance. 5339, which is capital funding for bus and bus facilities, no changes of significance there in the TIP. Also in our TIP, if you were to download it from our website and read through it, you'll see that we also carry all of the statewide programs that may benefit the region. I did not go into detail on any of these programs in the interest of time, but there are many of them of statewide interest that potentially benefit the region, and we carry those programs in our TIP for that reason. And that is, I know we're over our bewitching hour. I went as quickly as possible here with the TIP review. And I know we're past our time, but feel free now in the next meeting to download the TIP from our website, take a look at it in detail, and any questions or comments our way. With that, I yield the floor.
Any questions for Nate?
Okay, so no action on that, right, Nate?
We are, this is just giving people an overview about what's in the draft TIP. We will not take any action on this until our February meeting after the comment period is finished. So there will be another opportunity for questions and comments from the MPO in February.
All right, any questions for Nate on the TIP? Everyone's been given notice, and Nate did a great job on talking about the TAP application. So I believe the date was February 5th, right, Nate?
I believe that's correct.
So please get out to your communities if you want those programs to come forward, and lots of projects, potential great projects out there. And as Nate said, if you need assistance, give us a shout. I think that leaves us to the last motion, Jeff.
Do you have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thanks. That was Peter Griffin.
Thank you,
Al
guys.
Hall has seconded within the room here.
All right, Al, you will give it to Al, and I think we go with a thumbs up. So thanks, everybody. We'll see you next month, and really appreciate all your involvement. Stay healthy.
Thank you.
Back at you.
Thank
care,
you.
everyone.
Take care. Bye now.
Right.